Last time we did meanders, a complete session about meanders as well as practice activities. But now we'll be looking at the Oxbow Lake. So we've got this thing known as an Oxbow Lake. So I've got a picture of an Oxbow Lake here. You guys can see how it looks like. Basically, the Oxbow Lake, it kind of appears as a round, like half, more like a round-like shape. This is the lake itself. It's a lake. Remember, guys, a lake has got stationary water. Water is not moving. The water is not flowing. So it's not really part of the river. Okay. And then this lake that is kind of looking like a circular shape, it is next to a river. So on the other side, you are having a river. So this is a river. This is a river that is flowing. But this lake is not really part of the river, but it is forming next to the river. So we'll be looking at this landform, but you guys can already identify it, right? It kind of looks like a round shape. Yeah, kind of like a round shape, and then it forms next to the river. But its water is not connected to the one of the river because you can see that there are trees here. There are trees here and there is soil. So basically, the water from the river does not enter the lake itself, but the lake forms next to a river. This is known as an Oxbow Lake. So now we need to kind of analyze how does an Oxbow Lake forms. Okay, so to form an Oxbow Lake, we're going to start from a meander. You remember, guys, last time when we talked about meanders, I told you guys that meanders are just the bends on the course of the river. For example, if we look at this first image here, we are having our river here, and then it is bending here at this point. So we say that we have got a meander. Last time I told you guys about the undercut slope as well as the slip-off slope of the meander, and I gave you full details about how that works. So basically here we're having a meander loop. So we start with the what? With the meander loops. So how do we then end up forming this Oxbow Lake, this one that looks like a round shape, but that is next to the river, but it's not connected to the river? How do we end up forming it? So the first thing that happens there, when you're explaining the process of formation of such an Oxbow Lake, we first explain the continuous undercutting at the outer bank. Remember, guys, I told you that in a meander loop, the outer bank or the outer bend of this meander, it is known as the undercut slope. So this is known as the undercut slope. And we say that at the undercut slope, we basically have got a lot of erosion, right? So this is your undercut slope. Even here at this point, this is an undercut slope because this is a kind of an outer bend. So the outer bend has got a lot of erosion, all right? So I want us to focus especially on this area here. We are focusing mostly on the erosion that is taking place at this part of the undercut slope. So here, this is also an undercut slope on the other side, okay? Remember, it is found on the outer bend of the river. So basically, there is continuous undercutting at the outer bank, means that there is continuous erosion because I told you guys that we've got lateral erosion on the what? On the undercut slope. So basically, it continues to happen and continues to happen and continues to happen. And then what happens in the inner bend of the river or in the inner bend of the meander, as we have already explained before? In the inner bend, guys, I told you that we have got deposition. So this is the slip-off slope and there is deposition. So we say that we have got deposition in the inner bank. So in the inner bank of the river, we have got a lot of deposition or we have got continuous deposition. So it means that the eroded material or the material that is eroded from the undercut slope or that is eroded from the outer bank, it is deposited in the inner bank. Okay, and I told you guys how that works in a side view. So basically, this continuous undercutting and deposition, it actually causes the meander loop to become tighter. Okay, so basically, the meander loop becomes tighter because imagine, guys, let's say that this continues to erode and this continues to erode. Remember that you say that there's continuous undercutting. So we're trying to say that this undercut slope, it is continuing to erode and erode and erode and erode and erode. So basically, there is a lot of erosion that is happening and there's a lot of erosion. And remember, guys, I told you last time that as the river erodes, the undercut slope and the slip-off slope, they all move. Okay, they all move. So basically, the moment this river erodes, we expect the new undercut slope to be somewhere here. So let me just zoom it in for you guys so that you can see properly. All right. So basically, what do we expect here? As more erosion continues to happen, the undercut slope will somewhere be here at this position. It will continue moving. Because remember that, guys, it is eroding sideways and the water is occupying the space. So the undercut slope keeps on moving and keeps on moving and keeps on moving. Same applies for this undercut slope, this other undercut slope. It keeps on moving, okay, because erosion is happening at the outer bank. So basically, it keeps on eroding through the soil and it keeps on moving and it keeps on moving. So do you see, guys, that as the undercut slopes, or as these two undercut slopes, or as these two outer banks, they keep on eroding and they keep on moving and shifting their position, what will actually happen? They will get closer to one another. Because, guys, when you say that the undercut slope, it keeps on moving, it simply means that your river will now be at this point here, somewhere here at this point. Your meander will now be at this point. It will no longer be at the initial point where it was. I'm sure it was here at first, but now it will be here because the undercut slope is eroded. That's why I say, guys, please revisit that session when I taught about how the undercut slope and the slip-off move relative to one another. So basically, the undercut slope, or the outer bend of the river, it will continue eroding until it moves here, such that you realize that your meander becomes entrenched, or your meander becomes incised. We usually use the term incised meander. Okay, when you say that the meander is now incised, it simply means that the meander, it is now tighter. Okay, it is now tighter, means that these two outer banks, they are now closer to one another. You can see, guys, that this outer bank here, it is now closer to this other outer bank here. Why did that happen? It is because of the erosion that we had. It's because of the what? Of the erosion that we had here at the undercut slope. So as the undercut slope was eroding the material here, these two parts, or these two, because we say that these two are outer banks, guys. These two outer banks. This is one outer bank. This is another outer bank. So if we recognize that those are outer banks, what does that help us with? These outer banks, there's a lot of erosion that is happening to them. Even on this other outer bank, there's a lot of erosion. Means that they keep on eroding all the material that is here, such as the soil and rocks. Okay, and as they erode, they get closer to one another. I repeat, Kretov. So basically, they shift. The undercut slopes, they shift and they get closer to one another, such that the way your meander will be looking like, your meander will end up looking entrenched. Simply means that now the outer bends have gotten closer to one another. Do you guys see what I'm trying to say here? What these outer bends have gotten closer to one another. Do you guys see it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, so the outer bends, they keep on getting closer to one another. And this will continue happening, Kabang, and it will continue happening and happening and happening. But let's just go and read through the statement to hear how does that continue to happen. Okay, so basically, as more erosion is happening here, the meander loop actually becomes tighter, or you can say that the meander neck narrows. Basically, the bend of the meander, it actually narrows. And then now when the loop is tighter, the ends become very close to each other, or these outer banks become very close to each other. Because at first they were far away from one another. If you look at that distance here, they were very far away from one another. But now the meander loop becomes tighter. Now they're at a smaller distance due to the continuous undercutting that is happening at the outer bank. So now, the thing that will happen now, during heavy rainfall, basically during heavy rainfall and flooding, guys, you know that river rejuvenation is driven by heavy rainfall and flooding. So basically when it is raining heavily, day 12, the river has got more erosive power. The river has got more water in it. So since the river has got more water in it, it has got more erosive power. It is able to remove all the material, it is able to remove all the soil and all the rocks, because there is heavy rainfall and we have got more erosive power in the river. That is why when heavy rainfall and flooding happens, the river will cut through its ends. Basically, this is trying to say to us, Gretov, since we say that we have got deposition, since we say that we have got erosion, or we have got continuous undercutting that is happening here, we've got to continuous undercutting that is happening here at the deposition or at the undercut slope, this will continue to happen. And when there is flooding, basically it will happen so much that your undercut slope will actually end up colliding with one another. So your outer banks will erode and erode and erode in such a way that they end up colliding with one another. So it means that their waters are actually kind of they are kind of clicking with one another, or the water is now intersecting with one another. So the idea here that I'm trying to show you, grade 12, is that basically whenever we have got flooding, the river is eroding with a higher rate. There is a higher rate of erosion, or we can say that we have got a greater erosive power. So your undercut slope will end up shifting from here, and it will shift to somewhere here. This one will shift to somewhere here. And this other undercut slope will shift to somewhere here. And you see that they're intersecting, guys. Now your outer banks are now closer to one another, or your outer banks are now touching each other. And remember, guys, this is a river. So basically this is water. So now the water will now be intersecting. And some of the water will still be flowing to the outer bank, and it will be coming back here to intersect with the other water, and it will continue and continue and continue flowing downstream. Do you, grade 12, see what I'm talking about here? Are we still together?
Yes, sir.
All right. So now when this continues, guys, now the water is kind of like the same water. Like water cannot now be split now. So these outer banks have collided. So the water kind of looks like the same in this way. So if this continuous erosion happens due to this flooding and this heavy rainfall, what will that actually result in? This will actually result in the meander loop being cut off. So basically this meander loop will be cut off because basically the way it happens, remember, when these two collide with one another, I shouldn't have wrapped this, but let me just show you one more time. When these two collide with one another, I'm sure we say that these two are going to collide with one another. These outer bands, they're going to be like colliding with one another, and they're going to be having the same water. So basically when water flows, guys, it always wants to flow in an easy path, or it wants to flow in an easy way. Okay? So it doesn't want to flow in a hard way. It wants to flow in an easy way. What am I trying to say by this? I'm trying to say that as the water is flowing here, as the water is flowing and is getting closer and closer, it will not prefer to flow around the meander because now there's another straight path for it to flow. Instead, your water will just continue flowing down here, and it will continue with the stream. It doesn't have to go to the meander because now these two are attached to one another. So the outer bands of the river have collided with one another, grade 12s. So basically, as the water is flowing and the water is flowing and the water is flowing here, instead of going all the way around the meander, instead, what will it do? It will just flow straight up here. So basically, the water will end up just flowing straight up. So the water won't need to now go to the meander loop. So the water will just flow straight up from this side to the other side. So do you guys kind of get the sense of what's happening?
Yes.
Exactly. So now since the water is no longer going to the side of the meander loop, or is no longer going to the bend of the meander loop, it simply means that now we are no longer going to have water on that side. So basically this will actually result in a scenario whereby this meander loop is cut off. So basically the meander loop is cut off because now there is no water that is flowing to it anymore. Because now the water is no longer bending. The water is preferring to just flow in a straighter path. It is no longer going around the meander loop. So basically there is no supply of water that will go to the meander loop anymore. And the meander loop will actually be cut off with just a small amount of water. So it will just be cut off with just a small amount of water. I'm sure it had water before it was entrenched, or before these two ends met with one another. I mean, like in this first scenario, remember in this first scenario, grade 12, the water was going all around the meander loop and coming back to the other bend, okay? But now, since we have got this cut off of the water supply, basically means that the water will no longer be going to the bend of the meander. It means that there will now be only small amount of water remaining on the bend, but the bend will actually be cut off from the mainstream. because basically the water is no longer flowing to the bend, but the water is flowing straight up. And if it is cut off and there's no water flowing through it, we already know that if deposition occurs and then we can have some grass and trees growing in that region. Let's just say we've got grass and trees and they start growing here. So we can see that now our meander loop is now cut off from the mainstream. Now the river is flowing on its own, grade 12. It's no longer going to supply water to the what? To the outer bend. Water is no longer flowing to that outer bend or to that meander. And if the trees will start growing here, if trees start growing and the grass start growing and all of that, basically we will not have any more connection between these two. So this thing that has been formed, we call it a what? An oxbow lake. So this is known as an oxbow lake. So do you guys see how an oxbow lake forms just in a visual perspective before you even complete the statement?
Yes,
Is that hard, guys, to see what does it make sense? Does it make sense how we end up having a lake that is next to the river but is not part of the river?
yes, sir.
All right, cool. Yeah, because basically I wanted you guys to show I wanted to show you guys that this is how we end up having the meander loop, the oxbow lake. So basically this is known as an oxbow lake. You can see that now the water is now left on its own there. Okay, the water is no longer coming from the river. We just have water on that side, but the river, the mainstream is this one. This is the mainstream, or this is the main river. But now there is no connection between them at all. Why is there no connection between them at all? Because it has been cut off. Now water is preferring to just flow in the mainstream without going to the what? To the oxbow lake, without going to this meander. So we don't call this meander anymore. We call it an oxbow lake rather than calling it a meander. Yes, Sam?
So this ox bullets it will end up evaluated due to a deposition of soil. Or
Yes, basically, if there is no water flowing to the oxbow lake anymore, definitely there's going to be deposition here. There's going to be continuous deposition of soil and whatnot, and this soil will accumulate here because now there's no water that is stopping that from happening. There's no water flowing towards this side, right? So basically, it will just continue having a lot of deposition and deposition and deposition, and then we'll end up growing some trees there. If there is soil, if there is a deposit of fertile soil, we'll end up growing some trees and some grass, and these two will become completely disconnected from one another. Does it make sense, Sam?
yes, sir. So it's possible it end up being a circle end.
The
The ox.
oxbow lake, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It will end up running out because it has got no water supply anymore.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's just complete the statement of how we would explain that in words, because I already shown you, right? So now during heavy rainfall and flooding, the river will cut through its ends, and then the cut-off lake filled with water is known as an oxbow lake. So this lake that has been cut off, or this meander that has been cut off from the mainstream, it is now known as an oxbow lake. You know how to describe the formation of an oxbow lake, grade 12? Okay, usually asked in paragraph questions. You need to explain it this way. Very easy to understand. Even if you forget some other points here, guys, just make these diagrams, just make these 3 pictures that I've made. You can be able to cook up an explanation there and say that at the undercut slope, we've got a lot of continuous undercutting or continuous erosion. And in the slip-off slope, we've got continuous deposition. The meander loop will become tighter, or we can say that the meander neck is narrowing. And then now when heavy rainfall or flooding comes, the river will cut through its ends because the water will prefer to just flow straight up through the river without going to the bend. And then the cut-off lake that is obtained there is known as an oxbow lake. Very simple. Do you guys see that? Cool. Yes. So the significances of these oxbow lakes, the oxbow lakes, they actually form habitats for wildlife. They actually increase biodiversity by forming habitats for wildlife. Basically, guys, you already know that these oxbow lakes, they've got some water. So basically certain species or certain animals will start staying there and they will start, just staying there. You guys already know the habitats thing. We do have marine life, we do have aquatic life, we have different species that requires different environments for living. So it forms habitats for wildlife and that increases biodiversity. And then the other thing, the oxbow lakes can be used as water source. It can be used as a water source for agricultural purpose. So basically, guys, the moment this oxbow lake forms here, if there are people that are staying closer to this area, they can just go to the lake and fetch some water, and they can be able to water their plants for agricultural produce. So basically, since the oxbow lake has got some water, it can serve as a water source for agricultural purposes or any other uses. And then Oxbow Lake also serve as tourist attractions because basically the Oxbow Lakes, they look beautiful to an extent. They've got a good aesthetic appeal, right? So since they've got a good aesthetic appeal, they actually attract tourism or tourists. They attract tourists actually. And then now coming to Sam's point, Sam's point was saying, will this Oxbow Lake end up disappearing? Yes, at a point, the Oxbow Lake will end up running out because there is no water that is going to it anymore. Because remember, guys, we say that the water here, the water supply has been cut off. Remember that the water is no longer flowing towards it. It is now flowing in the mainstream alone. So the water is flowing in the mainstream without going to the Oxbow Lake. So basically, we have got low water supply. And you guys know that if we're going to use up all this water in the lake, because if we go and fetch some water and the animals drink some water or they drink the water from the Oxbow Lake and we use the water for a variety of uses, this is limited water. It will end up running out. So since the water will end up running out, will actually create what is known as a meander scar. So a meander scar is just an empty Oxbow Lake. So the one that was an Oxbow Lake, it had some water inside it, right? But now it will actually end up becoming a meander scar the moment the water is run out. The water is run out there. Because remember, guys, that there was water in this Oxbow Lake. Let's just look at this. This was an Oxbow Lake. It had some water in it. But because, there's no supply of water anymore and we use up all the water, maybe we fetch the water, we drain the water, we use it for a variety of uses, the Oxbow Lake will end up running out such that it just becomes an empty Oxbow Lake known as a meander scar. So meander scars are just empty Oxbow Lake. So you can see that here we're having two rivers and we're having two meander scars. And sometimes you'll end up not being able to see them because if there is continuous deposition that will happen, some trees will grow here and there wouldn't be any trace that there was a lake here and you won't be able to see it. So that is the lifetime of a meander scar or of an Oxbow Lake. So it starts as a meander scar or it starts as a meander njalo, and then it cuts off, it gets cut off. So it starts as a meander loop. That is the one thing. And then it becomes a tighter meander loop such that it gets cut off from the mainstream. And then when it runs out of water, it will become a meander scar. So basically, this is due to the decrease in the average rainfall over time. Actually causes this Oxbow Lake to dry out. So this actually forms a meander scar. So if they want an explanation of how a meander scar forms, you just talk about the decrease in the average rainfall over time. Let's just say now there's not enough rain coming and we are using all the water up, then the water in the Oxbow Lake will run out. So this will form a meander scar. And then how is water in an Oxbow Lake maintained? Let's just say now we've got an Oxbow Lake having some water. How do we maintain that amount of water? We don't actually maintain it ourselves, but basically, if there is continuous heavy rainfall or if there is continuous flooding, then the lake will always have some water. Okay? So let's just say it's raining and it's raining and it's raining. Obviously, the river will flood, guys. And when the river floods, the water will go towards the Oxbow Lake because the Oxbow Lake is actually next to the river from which it formed. So basically, if there is heavy rainfall, flooding will occur, meaning that the water from the river will not just stay in the river itself. Instead, it will just flood into the Oxbow Lake. So basically, heavy rainfall results in a lot of flooding. And basically, when the water is flooding, it floods into the Oxbow Lake. So as the water floods into the Oxbow Lake, you already know that we're gonna have what? We're gonna have a constant supply of water to it. So that's how we maintain the water. Okay. So flooding, heavy rainfall, as well as the flooding of the river, which is the mainstream, as well as underground water. So I told you guys about underground water, the water that is found below the surface of the earth. Basically, if we have got a river like this, and then we have got the underground water, and this is the level of the underground water. So this is your water table representing the level of the underground water. So basically, this water table is able, or some of this water from the ground is able to seep in to the river channel. So some of the water is able to do it to seep into the river channel. So basically, that's seeping into the river channel. What do we call it? What do you call this flow of water, guys, from a water table into the river channel? When water seeps in from the water table to the river channel, what do you call it, Ganj? To those who know, this flow. Anyone has an idea? When water is flowing from the water table into the river channel, let's say the river channel is empty. No ideas, Jay? Really? You guys are not paying attention. This is known as base flow. Base flow. Okay, you say it's known as base flow. So the base flow simply means that the water is seeping, or it is the water is coming from the water table or from the underground, and it is getting into the river channel. So this is known as base flow. So basically, this is another way of maintaining the water in an Oxbow Lake. So if the water table is very closer to the Oxbow Lake's surface, basically it will be able to do what? It will be able to just send in some water. So that's known as base flow. But flooding can also maintain the water in the Oxbow Lake. If it floods, we know that there's going to be water that will be poured into the lake. Even if the mainstream, or even if the river has been flooded, the water will just be poured into the Oxbow Lake. But if there is delayed rainfall, or let's just say that there's a decrease in the amount of rainfall over time, basically the Oxbow Lake will dry out to be able to create a meander star. Is that clear, Kratos?
Yes.